The county activates its winter weather plan. With a cold, wet night ahead, hundreds of people now have a place to stay dry.
Is it enough to stop climate change? No. The world has to do much more, much quicker, and so does California.
Parting words from Governor Jerry Brown, his thoughts on climate change and his work as governor as he prepares to leave office. Go, get, go. Ending 2018 with a parade and some football. San Diego welcomes fans for the annual Holiday Bowl. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The partial government shutdown will continue into the new year. Democrats say they will act quickly to end it when they take majority later this week. The new congressional term begins Thursday. That's when Democratic leaders plan to introduce a funding bill on Friday. It would reopen the government and allow more time to negotiate with President Trump over his border wall request. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he will only vote for a plan with the president endorses. Senator Lindsey Graham met with the president over the weekend and says a deal might be within reach.
The president is firm in his commitment to make sure we get money for border security. And there'll never be a 60-vote deal in the Senate that doesn't include money for border security / wall. And I don't see Democrats giving us more money unless they get something. The TPS recipients, about 400,000 people came to America for the last 20 or 30 years, fleeing war zones, natural disasters, and their legal status is about to run out. There's a lot of sympathy for this population in the Congress, and I think the president is very open-minded about this dilemma.
California played a big role in electing Democrats to the new House. 7 seats flipped from Republican control. 5 of those seats are in Southern California, including the 49th District, which covers parts of North County. Mike Levin beat Republican Diane Harkey after Darrell Issa decided not to seek re-election. On the final day of 2018, one prominent Democrat is looking ahead to 2020.
Because no matter what our differences, most of us want the same thing, to be able to work hard, play by the same set of rules, and take care of the people we love. That's the America I'm fighting for. And that's why today I'm launching an exploratory committee for president. But the outcome of this election will depend on you.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren has been a vocal critic of President Trump. She was first elected in 2012 and is known for her work as a consumer watchdog. Launching a presidential committee will help her decide if she has enough support for a national campaign. It's the final week in office for California Governor Jerry Brown. He recently sat down with KQED's Scott Schaefer to talk about his political legacy.
You came into office and it was a mess, right? So there were questions about whether California was even governable. There was a $26 billion deficit, a big recession. And there's an expression, never let a good crisis go to waste. Yeah. And I'm wondering, do you feel like you used that crisis to do things that you might not have otherwise been able to do?
Well, we got things. So without that fiscal crisis, we probably wouldn't have had the rainy day fund. We wouldn't have the cuts that we made. And we might not have had the tax increase that Proposition 30 was. So those were all things that responded to a clear problem that presented real threats. But that's what government is. It's challenge and response. You get a challenge and you got to respond. And there was no challenge, we'd all be asleep. There was nothing to do. But that was a particularly difficult period. Millions of people lost their homes, millions of people lost their jobs. That was a very unusual period, and it did provide the stimulus for a lot of things we did later.
To what extent were there things that you did because you felt you had to, but you didn't necessarily want to? And one thing that I'm thinking of is getting rid of the redevelopment agencies. And maybe you wanted to do that, I don't know. But were there things that you would have liked not to do in terms of big cuts like that?
Redevelopment is siphoned money from the schools, and the schools needed money. Many people think they still need money. Teachers not overly paid in any sense. Redevelopment, there were plenty of abuses. A lot of people wanted to see it go. And it did free up almost $2 billion a year for schools. And if people want to bring it back, they're going to take billions from the schools. And I would assume those people who care about California public schools will fight that very hard.
Yeah. You have made, among other things, criminal justice reform really one of the hallmarks of your 8 years in office. And part of that was due to the federal courts saying you've got to reduce the prison population. But you went well beyond, I think, what needed to be done to do that, to accomplish that. And I'm wondering, why was that such a signature important issue for you?
Oh, well, first of all, because there's so damn many people locked up. A couple of years before I became governor, there were over 170,000 principally men, principally low-income men of color, and not all that well-educated for the most part, all locked up in cages. Some people call it the gulag, Western style. Now, go back a few decades, and there were 20, 25,000, 28,000 locked up. We had 12 prisons. Now we all of a sudden went on a prison building binge, which I'm sure the legislature didn't really think through, and we go up to 35 prisons. So yet the number of felonies isn't that much different from the 70s. So why would you more than double your prisons and more than quadruple the number of inmates? So that tells me we need to reform. Yes, they're very dangerous people. Horrible things have been done. But human beings are capable of transformation, are capable of change. And we want to make that change more likely by having the right kind of environment in prisons, in jails, in alternative programs, and having a sentencing policy that makes sense.
Another big issue, of course, for you was the environment and climate change. Do you feel like you accomplished everything you wanted to do as governor on that issue, or were there things undone?
California has taken more intelligent action on climate change than any state or province in the Western Hemisphere, and more than almost all jurisdictions in the whole world. So we've done a lot. Is it enough to stop climate change? No. The world has to do much more, much quicker, and so does California. But that stepping it up requires public support. And as we see with Macron, riots in the streets because of a carbon tax. We see in Washington, a carbon tax was handily defeated. So no, I'm not satisfied at all. We're on the road to disaster. We're going to get more drought, more fires, more destruction, and we better start controlling it. You
are California's youngest governor, and you're California's oldest governor. I think there were about, 30-something years or so, 30 or so years in between. Well,
just by point of accuracy, we did have some younger governors in the 19th century. But in the 20th century, I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
And the oldest, oldest of all time.
Yeah. And so you had a lot of experiences in your life in between those two terms, and I won't go through them all, but there were some public offices you held. You did the Buddhist thing, the Zen monastery. How do you think all those things in between the two times you were governor made you different as governor?
Well, we are different. We, as you age, you get new things look different. You can look back on your life and you learn things, hopefully. I've learned to work very closely with the legislature. But again, it's easier to work with them when I'm older than most of them and I have more experience. The first time around, I was younger and I had less experience, and a lot of what they were doing was all new to me. Whereas now, most of what we're doing is familiar to me and new to them. So that's allowed a more balanced relationship, which I don't think I've taken advantage of, but I've fully embraced to make a cooperative partnership.
So January 7th, you and your wife, Ann, are going to leave. You're going to go to Colusa County, which is a much quieter existence than you've been used to. What are you going to miss, do you think, if anything?
I'm not sure. When I left the last time, I didn't miss too much. I mean, when I left, I don't think I looked back. What was Duke Magian doing? He was the governor after me. Or what was the legislature doing? You go on about your life. On January 24th, I'll be in Washington to unveil the clock that is put out by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, and they will tell us how close to midnight are we on the doomsday clock, which means how close are we to the end of the world. Now that's important. That's important work to try to wake people up. And I hope to meet with members of the Senate and the House and get a greater awareness that we got to deal with the nuclear threat. And then I'm also going to be working on climate issues, and then probably prison reform and sentencing. So just those three things alone, not to mention my olive trees and making sure that the emitters aren't plugged up or eaten by squirrels. I've got a lot to do.
All right, Governor Brown, thank you so much, and we hope you have a long retirement, long next chapter, I guess is probably a better way to say it.
Good. Well, yeah, I don't think of retirement. I think of taking off in a new direction.
That interview aired on the latest episode of KQED Newsroom. You can find more stories at kqed.org. Shelters in downtown San Diego will increase their capacity tonight due to the cold weather. The San Diego Housing Commission works with the city, Father Joe's Villages, and Connections Housing to open up an added 300 beds. Meals will also be provided. The county activates the winter weather program when overnight temperatures drop below 50, with a strong chance of rain. We've already seen some rain from this storm, and in North County, one woman captured video of a funnel cloud. This was in Carlsbad around 2 this afternoon. Shanae Shocker has a closer look at tonight's forecast. We're experiencing some technical difficulties there. Once we get that queued up, we'll play it for you. For the first time, the annual Holiday Bowl is being played on New Year's Eve. Earlier, fans turned out for the parade. KPBS video journalist Chris Arciaga has some of the sights and sounds along Harbor Drive.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, new video shines light on how migrant children are treated in U.S. custody. Coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The city of San Diego is working to install new protected bike lanes in parts of downtown. But KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says right now some of these lanes don't guarantee safety for cyclists.
This is a garbage truck parked squarely in the newly installed cycle tracks on J Street downtown. To get around this truck, cyclists would have to go out of the bike lane and into the street. Workers tell us this used to be a yellow zone for loading and unloading, but now it's a red curb meant to shield cyclists from cars. A red curb means no stopping anytime, but some drivers are not following the rules here. We even saw a San Diego police officer park his patrol car in the protected bike lanes to make a stop inside a convenience store. Despite some people parking in the red zones, cyclists we talked to say they're happy to have the new bike lanes.
Some of the streets are still bicycle shared with cars, but many times the cars don't share. So here's a totally separate lane, which is much, much better. It's a good thing. I mean, you lose a little bit of parking, but there's other parking in the city, and it's been a problem to begin with. More bicyclists, less parking needed.
The new lanes have bike-specific traffic signals, which seem to be confusing for some drivers. It's unclear if anyone has been given a ticket for parking in the new lanes. The city says it plans to install barriers to separate traffic from the bike lanes soon. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
We're looking at a freeze watch in areas traveling on I-8, and along with the gusting winds throughout tonight, that can cause some issues for travel for the low-profile vehicles. I was talking about those high winds. We do see a high wind watch here across much of the foothills and into the adjacent valleys. So travel, once again, I-8 will be an issue throughout tonight. We'll be looking at winds gusting up to 55 miles per hour, but more steadily 35 to 45 here. You can also see a winter area or a a winter weather advisory in effect. That's going to end as we head towards the 9 o'clock hour tonight. The wind advisory staying with us tonight through our Wednesday morning, though I expect that to decrease through our Tuesday. Here's a look at your satellite and radar. Big low pressure trough causing all these issues, from the winter weather to the winds, as well as the frost, and even some showers working their way into Southern California here. We'll continue to see the chances of that throughout tonight. A shower earlier on this evening. A low tonight of 43 degrees, so a light jacket will do you well. The rest of the region will be looking at showers continuing as a possibility for Chula Vista into tonight. As you head out to the mountains, Mount Laguna with a low tonight of 24 degrees. We're not looking at wet weather. We're looking at that snowfall accumulating 1 to 2 inches in some areas at the higher elevations. As we head into our Tuesday, we'll continue to see this low pressure trough pull eastward, but it's not moving too fast. So our temperatures tomorrow are going to be fairly mild. San Diego 61 for a high, El Cajon 62, and out towards Mount Laguna here we're sitting at 33 degrees. And with that temperature right around freezing, we could see some slick spots out on the road for your New Year travel. As we head into late week, we're looking at milder conditions as a ridge of high pressure returns to the region. As far as the coast is concerned, we're not going to see too much of a difference in our temperatures, but we will be climbing back from the low 60s to the mid 60s by our Friday. Mostly sunny skies. Out towards the inland areas, working our way back for Friday to 70 degrees. And we'll see mostly sunny skies here as well. Out towards the mountains, however, temperatures will be climbing quite a bit and warming up as we head through late week. And out in the deserts, we'll be climbing back into the mid to upper 60s by Friday. For KPBS News, I'm Shanae Shocker.
A new California report to address racial profiling is due this week. KPBS reporter Tara Minto says these results come ahead of the release of highly anticipated data on racial profiling collected by the state's largest police departments, including SDPD.
The report reviews data on use of force incidents and citizen complaints at hundreds of California agencies. The report from the Racial and Identity Profiling Advisory Board also identifies anti-profiling policies and trainings departments should adopt. And it details how the state will analyze the stop data that California's police agencies are currently collecting. That includes the perceived race, age, gender, LGBT status, and other details about the people they stop. A 2015 law by a local assemblywoman mandates the advisory board creates annual reports with policy recommendations to address biased policing. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
A busy night for law enforcement. The California Highway Patrol is in the middle of a maximum enforcement period for the New Year's holiday. That means more officers on duty monitoring for anyone who appears to be driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
If you're driving and you see somebody that you feel may be impaired on the roadway, please pick up your phone, call 911. If you have a passenger, have them do it, but a 911 call is allowed. Let us know. We have a lot of officers out there. We want to get these people off the road. We want everybody to get home safely.
CHP says they've made fewer DUI arrests over the past few days compared to the same time last year. The San Diego Sheriff's Department says fines and court fees associated with DUIs can reach $15,000 or more. Local transit agencies will have a special late-night service for New Year's Eve. MTS will run all 3 trolley lines until 2 a.m. It's also working with Lyft to provide discounts on rides to the trolley stations. North County Transit will also have extended service tonight, including free rides after 6 tonight. Hundreds of new laws take effect tomorrow, including one that will change freeway traffic. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar explains how a popular benefit for some drivers is being scaled back.
We've all been there, stuck in San Diego traffic. And it's even worse when you're in a rush or trying to get to work. That's when ideally riding in a high occupancy vehicle lane could make your life a little bit easier. Tyson Siegel has been driving his Chevy Volt in the HOV lanes by himself for the past 6 months.
The nice thing is that the HOV lane sticker initially got someone interested in purchasing this vehicle.
He's one of thousands of California drivers who are able to drive in the HOV lanes because of a Department of Motor Vehicles incentive program that gives drivers of clean air vehicles decals to use the lanes.
Over half of our greenhouse gas emissions are coming from tailpipe emissions. So moving people into public transit and electric vehicles are a priority for our state. The incentive to drive in the HOV lane was the largest incentive for somebody to buy an electric vehicle beyond the social responsibility. And so it was clear that was meaningful for folks in order to purchase an electric vehicle.
But now almost 220,000, including Siegel, will lose their decal January 1st, thanks to a new law changing the list of zero to low emission vehicles eligible for the sticker.
It absolutely will make my commutes longer. It'll make things a little less convenient for me. Even though the HOV lane would be great to continue to have, it's something that I still have all of the benefits of an electric vehicle. It's more fun to drive. It is less expensive to drive.
Not all electric car drivers are as neutral about the rule change. Elaine Borseth will lose the decal on her Tesla in January, too.
I'm not happy about it. It's kind of infuriating to some electric vehicle owners that I've driven 90,000 electric-only miles, and then somebody who has a 16-mile electric range is now going to be able to be in the HOV lane, and I'm not.
But California lawmakers say the rule change was necessary to get a new demographic of California drivers to buy clean air vehicles.
It was never meant to be a permanent incentive, but an incentive that would help get people into electric vehicles, get people purchasing them, looking at them, and that's what, at some point it has to sunset.
The California Air Resources Board helped draft the list of zero to low emission vehicles eligible for the new red decals. You can get those decals now, and they're valid until 2022. Some more recently purchased clean air vehicles with an old green or white decal will also qualify to change those to the new red sticker.
Some vehicles that were purchased in 2017 or 2018, or vehicles that got issued a decal in 2017 or 2018 are eligible to apply and get that HOV lane access extended to January 1st of 2022.
While both Borseth and Siegel will lose their stickers this January, they say they're happy they'll gain new fellow clean air drivers on the roads. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
If one of your New Year's resolutions is to spend less time on your phone, more businesses are stepping up to help. AP reporter Carrie Antelfinger shows us how companies are offering special promotions to disconnect.
These ice buckets at the Sushi Lounge in New Jersey are not for wine or champagne. They're for cell phones.
And if everybody can stay off their phones, not checking email or what have you, you can get 20% off your entire party's bill, alcohol included.
An extra incentive to detach from technology. They're doing it at some hotels and resorts too, like the Hotel Galvez and Spa in Galveston, Texas.
Obviously, everybody has a phone today, and everybody's using their phones almost continuously. So we came up with this new phone-free zone to encourage our guests, especially families, to step back and disconnect a little bit when they're on vacation.
Hotel Galvez is part of the Wyndham Hotel chain that is offering free dessert for putting phones in this locked pouch in the restaurant, or giving families a 5% discount on their stay if they put their phones in a timed lockbox in the room. This couple in Chicago wanted to show their kids they were prioritizing family time.
It's a little bit harder than you would think to just put your phone away in a box that can't be accessed, but I think that speaks to the reason for having tools and incentives like this, is to make it easier to do.
The hotel provides supplies for a pillow fort, s'mores, a bedtime book, and an instant camera for adults and kids who don't know what to do with all their newfound free time. Businesses that limit cell phone use risk losing valuable exposure on Instagram or Facebook, but they say the policies reflect their mission of promoting wellness and relaxation, and of course they hope that happily unplugged guests will return for future visits.
We've created the conditions where there's now a market for that. It's just so embedded in our everyday lives at this point that now we need mechanisms for getting it out.
Over at the Sushi Lounge, they started the promo 4 years ago on normally slow Tuesday nights. And since then, Tuesdays have picked up. But they haven't forgotten how important social media is for business.
We've had people say, am I allowed to take a picture of my sushi when it comes to post it? And we absolutely will allow them to do that. That's a little caveat.
A win-win for the restaurant and customers.
I think it's awesome. I think that we don't even notice nowadays having our phones. So it's great to be forced to put it away and have great conversation. And I will take a discount any day.
An extra push to help a cell phone addicted population disconnect. Carrie Antelfinger, Associated Press.
For the first time, the annual Holiday Bowl game is being played on New Year's Eve. Earlier, fans turned out for the parade. KPBS video journalist Chris Arciaga has some of the sights and sounds along Harbor Drive.
Let's go, Utah! Let's go, Utah!
Came down from Salt Lake City, Utah. Came in on Saturday day.
Go Cats, baby! Go Cats! Go Cats!
So we came from Chicago. We just got here yesterday. It's so absolutely beautiful. The water and the harbor front is just fantastic, and we've had a good time so far.
The parade's been fantastic. Another activity that San Diego puts on for the bowl game.
The greatest thing to me about the parade so far is seeing the local kids and the high school bands, some of the other variety of bands. It's been fantastic.
It's the largest balloon parade west of Mississippi.
We're just enjoying the balloons, and I'm waiting to see what else comes floating on by here in a few. The bands are good too. The Utes just pull it off by at least a touchdown.
Well, the Wildcats are going to win. Northwestern hands down.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Back at home, go Utes!
Hey! We'll see you guys tonight.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night and Happy New Year.